Hello, everybody, and welcome. We're going to go over how to make a resume today, hopefully taking it from basic to something a little bit extra, make you stand out more. So just want to first off introduce myself. My name is Carmen Merrill. I am a certified global career development facilitator. I have experience in human resources and workforce development, and my education is in social work. If this was a typical workshop, I'd be asking you about your experience and really wanted to know, thinking about what you're bringing to the table. If you're not sure, I definitely recommend you asking somebody, ask your friends and family, what do you remember me saying about what I did when I worked at this place? Or what do you remember me saying I liked or I disliked about working at that last job? That can be a really helpful self-reflection activity. So I definitely recommend before you get started to writing your resume to dig a little deeper into those areas of your past experience and use other people to help you do that. You don't have to do this alone. So we're going to go over the different types of resumes today. We're going to talk about tailoring your resume to the job description and getting really specific about what you should be writing, how you should be showcasing your best abilities. So first I'm going to go over, there are two types of resumes. We usually refer to chronological time, listing everything in reverse order from your most current position to your position to the farthest past. It's a good idea to make a master resume just for you to have on hand. You're not required to put every job you've ever had on most types of resumes. You really want it to be specific to the type of job that you're applying to. It's always good to have that master resume for your own knowledge. You can put all those details that might not fit in every resume, but something that you carry with you, hopefully in a cloud application throughout the years. So again, talking about chronological resumes, we're talking about the jobs you've done in order of time, really what it means. This is a typical way most resumes are written. And as we have pros and cons here, so it's not great if you are changing jobs. If you want to showcase your transferable skills, if you're changing industries or trying to break into a new type of career path, or maybe you just graduated, we could also look at a functional resume. And this brings some of those transferable skills to the top of the resume. If you've had a lot of short-term jobs, it kind of minimizes that by putting those jobs at the bottom. So we have our skills at the top, and I'll show you examples of these. It's not traditional, so sometimes it's a little difficult for recruiters to match up or imagine the different types of work, but it can really be helpful for the job seeker so that the recruiters and the hiring managers are seeing what you have to offer. Most importantly, your best assets right at the top and front and center. So here's examples of these, and I'm sorry they're a bit blurry, but hopefully you get the idea. We have our chronological resume over here. We have our name. We're going to do a little summary. We're just going to list the experience. We're going to list the dates, and we're going to talk about any education or training that we might have had. So compared to our functional resume, we're going to still have that professional summary. We're going to bring some skill section up here. And then look at this. We put, instead of the heading of experience, we have customer service and clerical experience. And then we just put some bullet points there. Training and certification. So we moved up that education portion. And then we just listed the jobs that we worked at down here. So two different ways to tackle a similar problem. And most resumes have a blend of these two formats. So you might see the professional summary and then a skills section and then an experience section. And there's no right or wrong way. There's no typical order to have your resume headings in. So when we have the professional summary, yes, that's usually at top. And then it might be education next, or it might be experience, depending what is more relevant to you. So again, can't emphasize enough, what you want the employer to read first needs to go at the top. And whether it's in an objective statement, a professional summary statement, we'll go over that later as well. In the skills section, so formatting, thinking about how you're formatting your resume to bring those skills to the top. And you also want to talk about formatting your resume. It's the first kind of big topic we're going to talk about is formatting. We talked about chronological, functional. What about the design of it? And how does that affect, are you going to get hired or not? Right? So matching the design to the industry shows already that you know a little bit more about the industry that you're applying to. So there are more conservative industries. Government is going to be way off, multiple pages, very extremely detailed, no date left unaccounted for, no gaps in experience. You're going to want to make that extremely detailed. They will probably use a font like this, a Times New Roman. Resume fonts are size 11. Most resumes are going to be here, kind of this typical business resume. It certainly can be one page for every 10 years of experience is the general kind of rule. It depends, again, on your industry, on yourself. There is, again, no hard and fast rules. We just wanted to showcase the best. I will say, try to avoid doing 1.5 page resumes. If you have enough to do 2 full page resumes, that's usually the best way to have a standout design. And we can do something a little bit more creative. So any job or entrepreneurial kind of experience where you're having to work in close quarters with people, you maybe want to show a little bit more personality. A personality match might be a little more important there. And then, of course, artists or any creative fields are way on our other side here. But again, I just use these fonts to show a little bit of difference and how that small little difference in font can also give a visual message. I don't say nonverbal, but a visual message to the reader about being more conservative or more creative. So again, so we're talking about visual messages. So which one is the government employee and which one is a graphic designer? So you could tell if these were switched, that would be very weird. And if you can hold the resume out and know what job you're applying for, that's usually a good sign that it's a good resume. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how to even start with your resume. What should I write? So hopefully you've started with a job that you're interested in applying to. And again, this might not even be a job right now. It might be your perfect job that you want after you graduate or after you gain more experience. But looking at some jobs in your industry that you're interested in and kind of looking at those keywords. So hopefully your resume will respond to whatever is in the job posting. So if they want a certain number of years of experience, we want your resume to reflect that. And where they want certain key skills, yes, we want your resume to reflect that as well. So we see this one here is for Animal Defense League, phone reception, greeting visitors. So of course in your resume, you want to have some experience saying, oh, I have done these skills. Easy, right? And what job have you greeted people that come in? Probably all of them. So just making sure you're pulling those keywords and responding it to it in your resume. So we're going to go look at the resume step by step, top to bottom. And so beginning at the top is our header. You want to have our name, should be the largest font on your resume. So I know I said 11, but your name, we should probably make that 22, just double it up. Works pretty well. We're going to have your phone number. We're going to have your email address. And we're also going to have your LinkedIn. And you should check and see if you have a customized URL on LinkedIn. And you can Google to learn how to do that, very quick and easy and free. But it makes your LinkedIn URL look really nice and neat to put on your resume. It doesn't have this string of numbers and letters behind it. We don't want that. And if you have another website, a portfolio, a GitHub, then you would put that information in this header information as well. If you are have multiple phone numbers or a street address, you can probably take those off now. Unless it's a government resume, we want to keep that street address on, but otherwise you can absolutely take a physical street address off your resume. And that just makes it a little bit more modern. We don't need to give that kind of personal information. They're going to get it when they need it for tax purposes, all that good stuff. So again, just another way to show that you have contemporary skills because you're paying attention to how contemporary resumes are being written. So the next section, when I'm writing resumes, usually a summary. So we used to call this an objective section. And the objective was about what you wanted because you wrote one resume, you photocopied it at the library, and you put a stamp on it and you mailed it to different businesses. So it had to say, I want to be an accountant, a full-time accountant, right? Because we didn't have a computer to match them up. So now we have professional summaries, and we're going to lead off with what we can offer the company versus what we're asking for them. Because we have a computer, they know what job we're applying to, right? We hit the apply. So we don't have to spend any time discussing, yes, I want to be in this position. It's a full-time X. No, we don't need any of that. So we want to start off again, just having those strengths forward at the top of the page, saying this is what I have to offer. So we have a couple of different examples and very real examples. Seeking a position, again, they know what position you're seeking. We don't need to say that. Cash handling, that will be like fairly compensated. No, again, we don't need to say that. So saying customer service professional, relabeling yourself with 4 years of experience, ready to leverage my experience as in this other area. Great. So you can also use the summary section, as I noted here. If you have something that doesn't fit into any other area, then your summary section might be a good place for it. This is a great place to highlight any soft skills, known for. What kind of person are you? Are you outgoing? Are you analytic? You can put some of those interesting characteristics or personality traits in this section. And we want to make sure that they match up to the job, but the job description might ask for someone with a certain interpersonal skills. You'll see a lot. So you want to make sure that you're addressing that. Any important keywords we can put at the top, again, just really matching, making sure that they know that we read the job description and then we're reflecting that back to them. And again, if you have to do a little bit of explanation, like, oh, you have experience over here, but now you're wanting to move into this industry, tell us a little bit about that. Why are you leveraging these skills? Really don't let the employer guess or have to make any kind of assumptions. We definitely don't want to make any assumptions about what you did and why it's relevant. Explain it to them very clearly. So here's are some great examples, and these are some combinations. We'll see, we have this awesome title, and these could be partly as part of the skills, but you should always try to work in the job title that you're applying to on your resume. So operations and project manager might have been the job title, so they put this here. Sales professional, great. Dedicated customer relations professional, great. We're going to talk about applicant tracking systems, but just really important that you're using those key words. If you can use the job title to which you're applying to somewhere in your resume, that'll help get more points on your resume. Again, we'll go into that a little bit later. But I love this because already I know, wow, client relations, negotiations, done. Let me bring that up here. We know everything about what we need to know about that person in those 3 words. So moving to the next section, the skills section. Easy place to, it's probably the most difficult place to format, but the easiest place to change and customize when you're telling your resume. So we see a Microsoft Office suite. So if you have a job application that says Microsoft Office Word, then we would change that. If this said MS Word, then we would change it to that. And then again, just matching those keywords on the job posting. The skills section in a bullet point, because as you see, draws attention. Easiest thing to change on your resume to get points to match through the applicant tracking system. So if you don't know, many companies have a software system that reads the resume and scores it. And that score has a lot to do with how well your resume is matching the job posting that was up. And different words will be weighted differently, and we'll never know that information, but we can do our best to match the words exactly as they were in the job posting. So on our next slide, we're going to just look at other examples of our skills section. Some of these are kind of a keyword section. So if we're looking at thinking about that applicant tracking system, wow, this key skill section, that's really going to match a lot of different words and be really easy for us to match, right? To change and customize as we need as we're applying for different jobs. Again, we can have some representative achievements, key accomplishments section, all good sections. Areas of expertise, quick, easy. This one has a little bit more wording in it. That's absolutely fine as well. All right, so now this is really the heart of it, the meat of it, right? The experience. When you are listing your job, so we're going to have your job title, underneath of it, the where you worked, comma, and then the city and state, and then usually your dates off to the side. Different ways to format that, but it's really important that they are all consistent. And if you do volunteer education, you will also format that in the same way. So if you're a volunteer or intern, you don't have a job title, you can kind of give yourself a job title. It's probably not intern or volunteer. It's probably social media manager intern or something like that. So absolutely, if you're kind of stuck, give yourself a job title if you don't have one for every position that you may have done. So looking back at experience, we're going to talk about those little bullet points. So after you have your job title, city and state, where you worked, the bullet points that go underneath of that. You can also do this in a paragraph form, which would be more typical of a government resume or a very formal resume. They usually have a paragraph form and then bullet points underneath. The paragraph sometimes describes the job that they were doing. And that's just another way, if that's your industry and that makes sense for you, you can absolutely set up your resume like that. However, for most people, that's just too much. That's just too many words. And we want to really embrace the less is more philosophy with resumes, right? Just showing your most outstanding achievements in each job. And to do that, we start each bullet point with a verb. We talk about our actions, and then we talk about the result of those actions. So if you're familiar with the STAR interview method, this is very similar. So we really want to talk about what the goal was and what we did to achieve that goal. And it doesn't have to be a really big thing. So it can be the customer was happy and they came back. It can be saved some time. It can be save some money. That's great. If it's not $2 million, then that's okay too. If that's not what your job was, or to don't feel like bad that it's not some super impressive number, because if you were in that role, then that's not expected. So yeah, saved 20 minutes of filing time because you made a spreadsheet. That's great. You can put that in a percentage, reduced time by 20%. Awesome. Again, brings me up my next check mark here. Add numbers and percentages as much as you can. Did you manage a team of X number of people? Did you train so many people? A lot of beginning jobs, we are on the job trainers, right? In all sorts of different capacities. So if that's something you've done, think about, I worked there for 4 years. I probably did it 10 times a year. Wow, that's 40 people. That's a lot, right? So when you have it on your resume, I've done this 40 times, that says something different than I'm on the job trainer, right? So just really making sure that you are painting the picture for the employer. You can include formal awards and recognitions. A lot of people do this. And if you do that, tell me why, what the award is for, and what you did to earn it. So you'll see sometimes just random, I got the Gonzalez Award. So what? Yeah, I don't know what that is. It doesn't mean anything for me. So explain that very simply. It's for long service, or outstanding customer surveys, or whatever it might be. And then also include informal recognitions, where you're the first person to do something, where you became a go-to person. Did you have a reputation for this? Absolutely, you can do that on your resume, include those things. And you can also include things that but maybe no one else recognized for you. You don't have to have a certificate. You don't have to have some kind of paper trail. If you're a cashier and your till was always balanced, absolutely put that on your resume. That's just something you can justify and you can speak to in the interview. So don't be nervous. I see people kind of wanting to feel like, I don't have anything to prove that. That's not necessary at all. So here we have an example of how we can improve these little bullet points, right? So starting off, made hotel reservations. Okay, that maybe was your job, working in the call center. Great. Succeeded in a fast-paced environment. Okay, now we know a little bit more about what you're doing. And you had to do it quickly and accurately. All right. That's a little bit different than just made hotel reservations, right? It doesn't leave as much to the imagination. Okay, wow. Now we have the best version. Provided excellent service to over 85 customers per day and exceeded annual sales goal by 15%. Wow, that paints a really clear picture about how busy you are. We're not just saying fast paced, we're saying now $85 a day, or 85 customers a day, and what that success looks like to you, that you achieve over your goals. So again, other examples that reading the job posting is going to help you learn the language of how to communicate these simple things. And again, seemingly simple job duties. Once I talk to people doing the resume, what seems simple to them is amazing and interesting and fascinating to me. But we kind of get caught up in our daily and like, that's normal, that's no big deal. But to someone else, it is unusual. So just keep that in mind, that this is really the outsider's perspective, and you really have to take that time to explain it to them and not leave any room for assumptions. What is experience even? We maybe should have had this slide first, but I talked briefly about how to format volunteer work, self-employment, absolutely. If you are working for a family business, absolutely include that as well. All of your work counts. It's all valuable. And it's all something that can go on your resume if that's going to help you and if it's going to be relevant and tell your employers a little bit more about what you're bringing to the table. So a lot of people do ask me about where do I include my education, top or the bottom. If you're a new graduate, and it's the most, and I mean graduate in terms of this could be a certificate program, it could be any type of training that you have achieved, and that's particularly important if you're switching careers. So we want to make sure that what is most relevant is at the very top of your resume. And here we see that even if you have maybe gone to a lot of different workshops or something like that, that's all kinds of training that you can include in your resume as well. So keep track of those things, and you'll see received 14 hours in professional communication. So that could even be some kind of public speaking or job search training or all that good stuff that you may be in. That could definitely help you depending on kind of where you are in your professional career. Again, it doesn't have to be all the training you ever had. I've had professors have that they're also massage therapists. Probably not really important. It's kind of an interesting fun fact if you're a massage therapist, but not something that you necessarily need to put on there under education. You don't have to put your dates of your education, particularly if you graduated from a college. We probably wouldn't have high school unless you're in that first year out of high school, or if you had enrolled in college already, then we wouldn't need to have high school on there either. And as best we can, I'm not a proponent of putting GPAs in there unless the job post asks for it specifically. But have a bullet point under your education. A lot of people don't put anything under their education, just that they got this degree or certification. But again, that's a missed opportunity. You can put a bullet point there. You can tell me, hey, that you raised money for charity as part of the Honor Society. Instead of telling me you have a 3.7 GPA, I'm like, oh, you're part of the Honor Society, so I know you probably have a high GPA. Again, just take that little extra time to explain if you had certain courses that may help you or shows that you're interested in a certain industry. So let's say you got your degree in marketing, but you're applying to a hospital. Well, if you took classes in bioscience, that might be important to them. That might be an interesting fact. And so under your education is a great place to put that information. So next area, sometimes people have memberships or clubs, or this kind of goes with volunteer work. If you are doing work in those memberships, if you are leading groups, if you are organizing events, absolutely include that. You can always include this on your LinkedIn. There's no limits on LinkedIn of how much you can add. So this is a great place to add that information if you have any clubs or any associations. There are a few industries that ask that if you are a member of a certain professional association. So of course you'd want to include that if the job posting specifically calls it out. And wrapping it up, this has been probably one of the fastest times I've gone through this presentation. So cover letter tips. A lot of people get like really freaked out, like cover letter, just that blank page staring back at you kind of anxiety. But it doesn't have to be so stressful. It doesn't have to be long. I think people think they have to be really long. You can have an intro paragraph, a few bullet points of what you're bringing to the job, your closing paragraph, and you should be good to go. We're going to look at traditional letter writing format. You can easily search that and get some great templates out there. We want to avoid to whom it may concern or dear sir, madam. We can definitely put, if you know the name, that's great. If you don't have a name, that's absolutely fine. To the hiring team at blank, to the such and such team, to the hiring manager at blank. I also like to use in response to the advertised position for, and then a colon, and then just start your letter after that. If you went to a job fair or something, you can say in your cover letter, and I definitely recommend that you do, hey, I met with so-and-so at the job fair and they encouraged me to apply for this position. It doesn't have anything to do with they're recommending you or anything like that, but that's a recruiter's job. And those are the people that are at the job fairs, is that, hey, we're here to get people to apply. So that's perfectly normal, typical, good thing to put in there. So this is kind of two different examples of a cover letter here. And you can see in response to the advertised position for blank guest service agent. Some of these are bolded and highlighted because I matched them to the wording in the job posting. Now, you don't obviously have to highlight or bold them when you write it out, but just to remember that you're still using those terms in the job posting. So we can have a short intro paragraph, maybe just have, 2 years of customer service experience. Great, easy. And if we look at this one, this is a T-style cover letter. Now, when you make this, it's not going to show this dotted line of, around it. I inserted a table into Microsoft Word, and this shows what they're asking for and how you meet those requirements. So whether you actually end up using this format or not, it's a great way for you to just organize your thoughts. And something that's really cherry on the top, makes everything so much nicer, is to keep that same heading in all of your documents. So on your cover letter, we see it here, right? And then your resume is going to have it. And then if you have a separate sheet with your references or any other information that they might want, then you would use that same heading. That is your letterhead now, keeping it very nice, professional, as if you are your own company. And that really, again, just really shows an exceptional level of detail. So going over there, we're talking about those action verbs. We're going to list our accomplishments. We're not going to worry. We're not interested in duties. We're not interested in typical things. We really want to know how you as an individual did things differently than the person next to you, right? With maybe had the same type of job. So we're going to use all those phrases from the job posting. We're going to keep it easy to read. We're going to have 11-point font. We're going to have a fair amount of white space. We're going to not use first person pronouns, I, me, my. We're going to try to write this in your resume and less so in your cover letter, but in your resume as third person. There might be some exceptions to this in some industries or in some positions, but typically we want to keep this in the third person. In your LinkedIn, absolutely write it in first person. Great storytelling opportunity there. Do not include any nonsense in general about references or anything like that. We're going to have that on that separate sheet of paper. You're a professional, so we know that you're going to have proper references, right? Anything that's not necessary, it's not relevant to the job, don't feel like you have to include it. And if you're not, usually with periods or multiple statements, you would have, if you had kind of a sentence going across, if you had more than one sentence, then yes, you would use periods. But if you're using bullet points, then we're not going to use periods, and we want to keep that consistent throughout the whole document. Of course, you're not going to make any misrepresentations. There are, depending on what country you are in, there are different standards and different information that's put on resumes. But here in the US, where I'm not going to include anything too personal. So that is everything I wanted to share with you today. I know that was fast, and I hope that you take time to review your resume, kind of go through this step by step, see where you may want to add a little bit more. I just would really encourage you to drill down as best you can to those unique parts of how you did your job and how we can bring those strengths to your new employer and explain that to you. Thank you so much for listening, and let me know how it goes for you out there. Bye-bye.